Today we're going to have a look at an example of how we would send an email message to an internal recipient who is occupying one of our job positions. And the example I'm going to look at is to tell this person that we have allocated a certain job to them. Okay, so the very first step we should do would be to, well, if this is your very first use of the email system, then you would want to ensure you've reviewed the general global settings, and I'll put a link down below to how to do that. If you've done that before, then that's not necessary to look at that again. And your first step would be to come in and to create the template. So I'm going to create a template here. I'm just going to call it notify team member that they have a VAT job. Okay, my subject will be something like VAT allocated, and I might just pop the client name in there as well. And then in my template, these internal ones tend not to require large amounts of merging in, to be honest. I might just say hi recipient first name. This is an automated email from Glide to let you know that you have been allocated the following VAT job. And then I might put here sort of like client. We could do this in a table if we wanted to, but probably unnecessary. Client name, brackets, client code, period end. Let's try and spell that. We get that from the job date. Deadline. Get that from the job deadline. And then we'll put here, please ensure this job is completed in a timely fashion. We aim to send draft VAT to clients at least 1 week before the deadline or within 5 days of the job being allocated. I'm just making this up. You could obviously put whatever you like. Thanks. Great. So we have our template. So it's the notify team member that have a VAT job. So I'm going to create that template. I'm going to come then to edit workflow systems, and I'm going to be doing this on the VAT info request route. And I don't actually have a stage for allocating, which is fine. You don't need a stage for allocating. If you had one, you'd probably pop this on that stage. What I'm going to assume is that I've got a few buttons bringing my job into ready to start. And I'm going to assume that at this point, there's a possibility that a manager might want to allocate the job. I'm going to give them a nice button here just called job allocated. This button is going to house my email that we're going to send. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay on ready to start. So if we now jump down, find that down below, here it is. What we'll do here is we say create new action, send an email using a template. This top drop down has all my templates in, so I'm going to choose my top one there. And then I need to be careful here, I don't want to send this externally. My client isn't going to complete this, so I need to change this to an internal option. You'll see, and perhaps I'll do a quick image for you and pop this on the video. You'll see internal specific Glide user has my users, or Glide user in a job position has my positions. I'm going to target the preparer here. There we go. So that's great. When my button is clicked, it's going to send. Now, one thing I would say is my default option is for emails to queue. But with this being an internal one, that's not necessary. I'm happy for it to send straight away. With external, we'd always say queue a few, check you are happy, etc., etc. No need for so much caution internally. So I'm going to say always send. Okay. So that's one thing we'd want to do. We'd want to get it sending automatically. So we are targeting the preparer here. So it makes an awful lot of sense to have a create new action and to do traffic light field completed preparer. That means it's impossible to click this button if there's no preparer. So it means we're never ever going to have a situation where the system tries to generate this message but finds there is no preparer. So that's good. A traffic light is always sensible there. Now I could set up some advanced send rules to state that this particular template should come from perhaps a particular position, the job manager, job partner, perhaps a specific person. And if there are benefits to it coming from someone in particular, such as the preparer might want to reply, then that could well be a good idea. Of course, what you have to remember with that is that if the advanced send rule doesn't find a manager, partner, then it will queue with missing info. You could prevent that by having more traffic lights here to again make it impossible to click if your sender isn't detected. But if there are minimal benefits for an internal message, obviously those advanced send rules are great for external messaging, but if you're thinking there's minimal use to doing it internally, don't do it, because of course if you just have a set value, either your default value or maybe an advanced send rule with a specific typed value, like job allocation at myaccountancyfirm.com, then of course it's guaranteed to send. It's never going to not find that value. So not quite so much benefit here. Okay, so that's all set up. When that button is clicked, it will now send the message. So, okay, so let's find an example job. Okay, so if we continue down here, let's just get to that stage. Here we go. So, and of course, it's going to be a good idea to have the preparer block on this button as well. But here's my new button. I have to choose a preparer, so I have to allocate the job. Okay, so let's go for, I'm going to actually go for myself there. And when I click the button, messages in the system, it knows it's going to send straight away. So within about 60 seconds, that'll go from pending to sent. And we have got our message sent. Now, a couple of tips to mention on this. As we've sort of seen in our example, you can have multiple buttons, even if they're just going from and to the same place. They could do different things. So you could have a button that sends an email, a button that doesn't. You could also consider, with this approach, if you just have one button and it's always clicked, everyone's always going to get a message. Now, if you felt that would be too many messages, then as an alternative, you might consider an alert, and there's a separate video talking about how to do exactly this. You might instead have the job starter button maybe trigger a target for when it should be finished, or maybe it insists on the manager popping in a target. And you could trigger the alert, if it's not started within a certain number of days, either of arriving on that stage or within the proximity of the target for completion. That would mean that your email sending is more conditional and you're not getting one message per job. Other things to consider, you could consider looking at the webhook workflow action as an alternative to email. That allows you to trigger a webhook, which then, if you have an internal IT development resource, they can consume that and notify people in any way they wish. If you are a user of one of the low-code development platforms such as Zapier or Make, then you can receive that webhook and do things like sending a message to a Teams channel or sending a Teams direct message. So again, just another strategy for perhaps minimizing the number of emails going into the inbox. Hope this video was helpful. As ever, if you need any help at all, please do not hesitate to get in touch with the team. Thank you.